It is Tuesday after the holiday weekend. Hope you had a good one. I was made to do a lot of shit that I didn't want to do. Cleaning up, making the place look all nice. Who wants to do that? Nobody. My wife pushing me around, being mean to me. I had a hurt leg and everything. Hopefully it was a great one. Lots of stuff certainly to talk about. Coming up on today's show, the legendary Leo Rautins of Syracuse fame, Philadelphia 76ers. I think he actually Atlanta Hawks in there as well, but many will know as the outstanding NBA analyst on TSN. Now, when I first said legendary, people thought, and you're looking at the show, you're like, why are they starting off with the two-shot with Dave and Mike? Because there's another legend on the show.
There is.
Jimmy the Bag, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah. Jimmy the Bag. Jimmy the Bag.
Blah, blah.
Yep. Yeah. And after the Preakness, okay, so was this a good weekend or bad weekend for Jimmy the Bag?
I took it right in the old drink hole, fellas.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
Not good. Okay, so let's just briefly, and then we'll get to the Lucci insults as well.
Okay,
there were some good ones on Twitter by Dave Bastel. Really, he was not pleased with some of those comments, our good friend Luch. So if you missed the Preakness and you had some money on it, like I did with Classic Empire, let's just reminisce.
Drive, and they're into the stretch here at Pimlico, and Julia Leperoux and Classic Empire have a 3-length lead,
Classic
but
Empire.
Cloud Computing on the outside
No.
is coming with a run.
No.
Cloud Computing outside keeps on coming.
Fuck off.
Classic Empire,
No.
Cloud Computing,
Asshole.
head-to-head down to the line.
No.
Cloud Computing
No.
wins the Preakness by a hit from Classic Empire. Senior investment then gonna bear or multi.
Oh, all right. That sucked right there. How badly did it suck for you? Was that devastating?
It was a tough blow. I had Cloud Computing, but I had him with Always Dreaming, and Always Dreaming decided to run half the race.
Yeah.
Focus on where he's going to take
Well,
it.
why tire yourself out? I guess that's the philosophy there.
Focus on its post-show dump during the second half of the race.
That's so frustrating, though. And look, what was my enormous bet? Like $12. It was on a parlay. I don't like losing $12. I'm all pissy about it. But the reality is, have you ever been around when someone has bet at a track like significant money and is not going to win in that circumstance? Like, let's say you had Classic Empire and you're at Pimlico. Oh, by the way, lovely. Unlike Churchill Downs, what a charming view that was of was it Baltimore? Yeah, looked like a scene from fucking The Wire.
Yeah.
I was waiting for Stringer Bell to show up with like someone's head on a stick.
Oh yeah.
Like that is just
Well, Baltimore is a dump, though,
No,
right?
it's-
Really, you can't put lipstick on a pig.
No, you can't. And they didn't there. But have you been around when someone's lost like significant dollars? I've never been around someone who's lost like what could someone lose at a track like that? Are people putting down 10, 20, 30 grand?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't know over 10 grand, really, but 5 to 10 grand. We were watching it Chinatown off track. And
Yeah. So by the way, that sentence I just love. Chinatown off track. It can't be good.
Oh, it was in full glory today. And so we had a guy come up during the race, halfway through the race, stand up in front of all the TVs, go, "It's over. Classic Empire is going to stop watching. I've won my ticket. We're all going to win here. It's Classic Empire."
No.
Yeah.
The race isn't even half over.
People are yelling at him to sit down and all this shit. Oh, man. It was hilarious. There were so many laughs. Man, there's some ballsy seniors in this spot, man.
So there's
Ballsy seniors.
old people.
All old people. There's this old guy with a cane. He comes in after the race and he calls everybody losers. He goes, "You're all fucking losers. Every single last one of you. You're all fucking losers." And then he walks to the door and he stops and he comes back and goes, "Did you all hear me? You're all fucking losers. Each and every one of you." And he goes, "You guys know how to win, but you don't know how to lose."
So that's the last time you bring your
Holy
uncle.
shit. I was going to say, I didn't know Sudsy knew where the off track was.
Yeah, man. I asked him too. I said, "How can we be the very thing we don't know how to do?" And he swung at me with his cane, and he hit an Asian guy right in front of me, and like it was seniors going at each other,
Give
man.
you a little Angela Mosca action. That's what
A little
happened right
Angela
there.
Mosca.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh man, and one there's characters in this place, and one guy is a heavy gambler, heavy gambler, betting on sports, betting on everything. He always has $5,000 in cash he's showing everybody, and
That's crazy showing your money in a place like that. Isn't that crazy?
it's
Yeah, I wasn't taught that way. I
Yeah, make sure you
if I have a $20
Yeah.
bill, I'm not showing anybody what I have.
And he's not lying either. That $20 is not coming out of his pocket.
but he didn't get in to make his bet. He didn't get in to make his bet, and the guy in front of him, I guess, was just fooling around, looking at numbers, and he lost his mind.
So he had no action on the race.
Well, at this point, I mean, he might have had some previous action that he made, but when he was trying to make his last bet, he couldn't get in, and he lost his mind. So this guy is maybe 5'6", 140, and he's yelling at this big black guy, saying the most horrifying things to him, and the black guy's just taking it. You know, it's
the magic of the off track in Chinatown.
oh man, and packed to the rafters,
Yeah, I
man.
bet.
Oh,
There
geez.
must be smoking in there.
No, but if you just step 1 foot outside,
There's
it's
one inch outside.
40, 50.
Yeah.
But we could have figured out cloud computing. There were clues about cloud
Because
computing.
people did sort of. So what were these clues? Because people did sort of. It wasn't like that much of a shocker, was it? In terms of a long shot.
The giant clue was that JJ Castellano, who is probably the best jockey in the world, got off Gunnevera and went to cloud computing. Why did he go off Gunnevera to cloud computing? There was a huge hint there, huge. And then when you look at cloud computing's history, this was only the 4th race of his life.
Right.
So the 2nd and 3rd races were the Gotham Stakes and the Wood Memorial, and he had easy excuses as to why he lost those races. He came 2nd and 3rd with blatant excuses. And then they kept him out of the Derby because he never raced as a 2-year-old. He was hurt. And no horse has won the Kentucky Derby without racing as a 2-year-old since 1882. Apollo,
shit.
1882. It's called the Curse of Apollo. So they kept him out of this 20-horse mess. Chad Brown won the trainer won his first Triple Crown race and absolutely deserved it. He handled cloud computing perfectly. And with all this, Classic Empire is still the best 3-year-old in the country. Classic Empire has run courageously, taking out Always Dreaming like that. I mean,
Does any of this mean anything towards the last?
The Belmont.
Does it lead us to a clue, or because the race is so different, it doesn't apply?
well, no, it does. See, the Belmont is a mile and a half, but for whatever reason, no horses that come from far back ever win the Belmont. It's always someone who's staying close to the pace, which will be Cloud Computing and Classic Empire and Always Dreaming if Always Dreaming runs. But Todd Pletcher is a bitch. The trainer of Always Dreaming, he complains and whines about bringing horses back 2 weeks after because he clearly can't train them. He doesn't understand how to bring a horse back in 2 weeks. I don't even know if he'll bring a horse back in 3 weeks. My guess is that Always Dreaming will not run in the Belmont Stakes.
Really?
Because Pletcher is a little bitch.
So he's crying, and he's not gonna. So he's gonna take his horse and go home.
He needs 4 months in between races. He needs to feed the horse carrots and peppermints for a couple months. Really give him good long strokes.
Wow.
Clean his magma before each race.
So cloud computing entering the Belmont, is that the favorite right now?
No, Classic Empire.
It will be
Still
still,
Classic
right?
sure.
Empire, yeah.
For sure. If he hadn't have gotten that struggle with Always Dreaming, they ran a 23-1 and a 46 mile. If they didn't run those numbers, if he stayed back, Cloud Computing had the perfect race.
Right.
He sat right behind those two guys. They battled. They knocked heads, and then Cloud Computing just took what was his at the very end of the race.
Yeah.
Now, before again at the bottom, well, in about 20 minutes or so, we're going to have Leo Routens in studio as well here on RawMikeRichards.com, brought to you by Henry's Cameras, Abbey Studios, and of course Eggplant Pictures, Canada's creative hub. We want to get to some other action too. So if you're taking a look at what you want to do tonight, now of course a lot of talk with Pittsburgh and Ottawa, Dave. We'll get to hockey and some of that stuff later on.
Love
but
the
in
Matt
terms of-
Murray start.
Yeah.
Eh?
So
Looks
Yeah.
pretty good.
seven Cobb. That's why I put that Charlie Brown picture out there. Some people were pissed off, but that's exactly what that looked like. That's just getting lit up. Numbers wise, if we're looking at parlays, you liking the Penguins? Because they got it's a pretty good number actually. When I take a look,
Couldn't
at it.
believe the number. Minus 150 and minus 155 on some sport books. Now, we've all seen that teams who dominate and blow out a team, they struggle for whatever reason the next game. But those teams don't have Sidney Crosby on them. They don't have professionals on them. So I love the minus 150, and I love Kershaw at minus 250. up against the Cardinals and Lance Lynn. This is the time of year when Kershaw dominates.
Yeah.
This is the time of year when you can just bet on him every 5 days and just take that money. So I've got 3 different parlays, all with the Dodgers and the Pens.
Okay, let's get some. I need
Miami.
some magical music here. Let me just try whatever this is. Let me just see, because let's try this. I'm gonna go here and let's hear those parlays.
I got Dodgers, Pens, Indians at plus 261. Got Carlos Carrasco pitching for the Indians against Amir Garrett, who will be a great pitcher someday, but he's walks too many batters. Then I got Dodgers, Pens, Tampa Bay Rays. Alex Cobb back off of Tommy John surgery, getting stronger and stronger each start, and they're only minus 115 at home against the Angels, Matt Shoemaker. And then finally, I got them with the Houston Astros and McCullers Jr., who I believe will be a Cy Young candidate this year. He hasn't allowed a run in his last 3 starts. McCullers Jr. is a monster. I say he's the number 1 pitcher on that staff. I say he's better than Keuchel. So I've got
Really?
those 3.
Okay.
So I'm getting plus 261 with the Indians, plus 330 with the Rays, and plus 240 with the Astros. And it's time to make some motherfucking money,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
I've hit back-to-back nights like MJ. I'm ready to go back-to-back like MJ, man. My sleuts need it, man.
Yeah, let's
I
do it.
I want to buy frog legs for my sleuts, man.
Frog legs. Funny, I didn't
Is
see
there a
you.
good place in Toronto you can
Yeah.
buy frog legs?
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Do you have a go-to?
See,
or
in
what?
in his neighborhood, it's called the Pond. Yeah, that's where the frog legs come from.
man.
Hey, I'm with you. You know, Alex Cobb. So it's funny because we actually, in our last show, Dave talked to Tommy John, and he's amazing how many young
Like
kids
the,
come up.
the actual Tommy
Yeah,
John.
Yeah.
And kids come and they go, "That's so weird that you have the same name as a surgery." And he's like, "Yeah, well, the guy actually came first."
And why that guy isn't in the Hall of Fame is beyond me. 25 years in the majors, 300+ wins. It's just because it's the longevity factor, the surgery that saves so many pitchers' lives. I don't know how that guy isn't in the Hall.
Yeah, and sometimes, I mean, that surgery, it goes one way or the other, Dave.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, look, it saved some careers.
I played actually against Tommy John III. His
Oh, is
son.
that right?
I
Wow.
did. Yeah, a single A ball. He was with. Oh geez, I think it's Sioux Falls Canaries at the time. So yeah, he was small pitcher. Didn't have anything to offer.
Yeah, and people are like, I'd change your name if I were you because you suck.
Well, you know what's funny?
You
on,
suck.
on that same team when I left, Pete Rose Jr. joined the team.
Oh, wow.
So and he was actually pretty good for
Yeah.
a single A, double A level,
Yeah.
but he's not Pete Rose. He's not the hit king, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Did you do a lot of adjusting when you played, like a little ball
yeah, you
shuffling?
can't.
Did you
know
do a
what,
lot of that?
when you have the cup on, Mike, you're adjusting.
Yeah,
You're
it's tough.
adjusting
It's a
lot.
tough one.
It
What were you?
is.
What were you playing? Shortstop? What did you play?
I was playing second short.
Second.
Yeah.
Second short.
Yeah. Middle infield.
Oh, so now it's time for Jimmy the Bag to leave.
To fuck off?
Yeah, get the
No,
fuck out of here.
no.
Yeah, isn't that so nice?
Come
You know,
on, man.
People normally have music
I
and
just-
extra songs. Like, get the fuck out
I
of
just
here.
started rolling,
Yeah,
man.
I
I
know.
started feeling comfortable
Yeah,
in here.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, real huge stars
Nice
coming
seeing
in.
you,
Yeah.
Bag. Have a good week,
We
bud.
got a real guest coming
Oh,
in now.
please shout out to my sleuts while I'm gone.
Yeah,
okay?
I'll do that. Ladies and gentlemen, what are you sitting on your hands?
There we go.
Thanks so much for having me, fellas.
Jimmy the Bag.
Much
awesome.
love, man.
Yeah, okay, and we're going to tweet out you got picks coming to win tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
I tweet my action every day, man. Follow at Jimmy the Bag, JimmyTheBag.com for all my day-to-day glory.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, the
Day-to-day.
glory of it. I
Day-to-day
love
glory,
it.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Bag. Have a good week, pal.
Once again, we're going to talk to Leo Routens in studio. He's going to join us at the bottom of the hour and taking a look at the hour being up. Well, I guess we're that just got unplugged. That can't be good.
Did I unplug something?
Yes. If you want to focus on Dave there for a moment, Russell, I'll
Hey,
quickly
Rusty.
end. Here we go.
Okay, let's talk about Jonathan Bernier. But man, this guy is terrible. I thought he was bad in Toronto, but yesterday was the main reason why the Ducks actually lost this game. This should be going to 7 games if you're the Ducks, but man, 16 shots on goal, and he lets in 4 for a save percentage of .750. Where have we seen this before? Oh, yes, his years as a Toronto Maple Leaf. This guy may not have a job next year, Mike. I got the feeling that if you're pursuing a Jonathan Bernier, it's on a pro contract basis, and that's it, because when you pepper an opposition with 41 shots and you get the loss, that is not very good news. Poor Ducks and Jonathan Bernier with the loss.
But are you surprised, though, that when you look at sort of the trend of an athlete and where things are going, it's hard. I'm hard pressed to think that in any way, shape, or form, that Jonathan Bernier's trend was somehow trending upwards.
Yeah, well, you know what it was during the regular season when Gibson was out with a couple injuries. He came in, and his numbers kind of masked what he really was because the Ducks make him, and that defense during the regular season makes Jonathan Bernier better than what he was because he isn't a very good goaltender. No. He's a backup at best, and it's funny because when the Kings drafted him many years ago, everybody thought that this guy was going to be something. This was an heir apparent. This guy was supposed to be the answer to Jonathan Quick. And we know exactly what happened there. He's not even remotely close. I'm not sure exactly if he's going to be in the league next year. Maybe he catches on as a backup somewhere, but man, people are probably looking for other options, especially with the Ducks for next year.
He's going to be a push to be a number 2 on a team right now, and I just think that the time has run out on belief. But look, is there always a team that could use a guy who's had as many starts as he has? Yeah, probably in the NHL. He's a
pretty
true.
short 6'2", eh? Like he's 6 foot. Like he
You're saying
lists,
he's 6?
He lists as 6 foot even.
By the way, here's if you want to get in on the conversation at any point on what we're talking about, if you're watching us live on the dedicated YouTube channel, Raw Mike Richards, here's Steve. Steve says, "Hey, Jimmy the Bag at Jimmy the Bag. Are these offshore gambling sites? I've heard when you win big, they're slow payers. Or do you place in Vegas?" That's his question. Now, Jimmy just took off. I'm sure he's going to answer that back. Most of the time that we're talking on here, Dave, I would say generally we're talking about offshore, depending on which one you want to use.
Yeah, it usually is.
Yeah.
Offshore offers the best number as well. It doesn't necessarily provide the best security. but you know what? With the right ones, there's nothing wrong with it.
By the way, we're going to have a huge partner. We're going to make the announcement, I think, at some point in the summer. As we slowly start to reveal a lot of the people who are also sponsoring RawMikeRichards.com. We wanted to make sure that we could make everything work to begin with. And if you're actually interested, get a hold of us. We certainly appreciate any interest, and we've had a bunch of it. And we're just going to start to implement that as you see it throughout the summer, building, quite frankly, all the way to what is going to be a very busy fall. But we've got some pretty marvelous things happening over the summer. So you want to make sure that you subscribe to not only RawMikeRichards.com, but also the YouTube channel as well, which it grows each and every day. So we appreciate that. What's not growing is San Antonio, and that is over. And due to players like Steph Curry, they're just so goddamn good. I mean, even Greg Popovich after the series is just like, look, you got to put it out to the organization, not only the coaches, the coaching staff, and the way that they've had to juggle with Steve Kerr, but the players they have. So we're just going to show you a brief clip of last night, 129-115, the final. They are just cruising through this thing, if you ask me. And Steph Curry, once again, 36 points, the same old, same old.
Forbes fakes, one dribble, pull-up jumper, it's good.
So they get within 10, so it kind of gets close.
Durant quickly silences the crowd. Here, third quarter of game 4. Spurs trying to force a game 5. Curry steps back and rattles home the three-pointer.
Coach
Against the Cleveland Cavaliers.
But that's just literally
in the finals after they let him go twice.
Anderson throws it down.
Whenever they get close, that's enough. Whenever they got close, they just simply close it down. So, beating a team by 10, 15, 20 points, Dave, is just literally routine for this team. In a San Antonio franchise that has been really a model of excellence. I mean, very often you'll hear me talk about these franchises that, if I'm looking at the New England Patriots, if I'm talking about legitimate, consistent winners where the culture of winning exists on a year-by-year basis, I'm also throwing San Antonio in there, even though at times they can completely annoy me. But the fact is they've done it right from ownership, coaching, players, all the way down. So if they're at the end of that cycle that we talked about, indeed, they've got nothing to be ashamed of because they have been fantastic as an organization.
Yeah, they really have. And I'm kind of curious to see what happens next. Like if there's, do they take a step back? Do they decide to go in a different direction with a couple of older players? There's some decisions to be made, but the organization has been a mark of excellence for like 2 decades, maybe longer.
It's hard to argue with the success going all the way back to the Admiral, going back to Robinson. I mean, you go it's just incredible to think in the day, like, a George Gervin, right? The Iceman back in that time. But that was the Lone Star. They weren't literally that team of excellence at that time. He was, but the team wasn't. Very funny moment, though, afterwards, because they're talking about, Ginobili, is Manu going to retire? Well, at some point, because of him being, Latino, Hispanic, he's going to give, especially in San Antonio, one of the Todo Deportes reporters an answer in Spanish. But he's, sort of questioned at one point by a good old boy. This is courtesy, once again, of TNT, property of the NBA. This, to me, was a very funny moment with Manu Ginobili.
No pasa muy seguido, y cuando a uno le pasa y no lo espera, y bueno, obviamente mueve un montón de cosas, sensaciones contradictorias, felicidad, dolor, un poco de tristeza, un poco de, qué sé yo, de emoción. Así que sí, fue raro, pero lindo de vivir.
Manu, you didn't just retire in Spanish, did you, Manu?
No. No, I haven't.
Outstanding stuff. That was, you know what? You've been in those chuckling sort of, someone
Sure.
says something and we're laughing.
See, now that was legitimately funny, though.
That was a bona fide funny crack.
Because usually it's kind of like the nerdy reporters hanging around going, you like yellow?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm embarrassed to be here.
Yeah. Because there's a lot of that.
There's tons of that. Breaking news from TMZ. You're not going to like this.
What?
Roger Moore is dead at age 89.
I just was watching some of the terrible movies he made over the weekend.
You were, right?
Oh, it's funny. As a
Okay,
kid, you
he-
remember some of the Bond films, and I'm watching
Your second favorite Bond guy, Roger Moore?
Oh, Moonraker and whatever the other one was. I'm going, oh my God, they were shit.
Roger Moore was good, though. He was not Sean Connery.
No, Sean Connery and who's the last guy? Why do I always forget his name? The blonde haired, the
I know
last
what you're
Bond.
talking about.
Who am I talking about?
Russell's probably. Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
That's it, yes.
Oh, you like Daniel Craig? I didn't know that.
He has Daniel Craig posters
Do
in
you
his room.
Do you think you're Daniel Craig?
He kind of does.
I bet you do the poses in your room. Da 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 da. da. Russell, don't pretend you're James Bond anymore. Mom,
It's Daniel.
yeah. Oh, just some of the lines though too were really like I think the shitty effects of and Mr. Bond, here's the rocket missile number one. Here's and the little model comes off. I'm going, oh my God, it looks like Thunderbirds. Like it's really kind of here's a laser gun. Pew, 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 pew. Like it was really bad. Because the irony is when they first do James Bond, and Ian Fleming had 007 as a cold-hearted killer. That's the license to kill. Yeah. So when you're Sean Connery and you watch some of those earlier ones, did he get the ladies? Of course he got the ladies. He's Sean Connery. But there was some ruthless fights and there wasn't like the Roger Moore sort of, I say, hello there, chap. Like it just all of a sudden he became more debonair and not that tough. Like, did you like, what's his name? Pierce Brosnan came in afterwards. Because he was in the Roger Moore vein a little bit.
Yeah, Sean Connery was my favorite, and maybe it's just because of the voice more than anything else.
If you want to see something weird, go watch the interview with him and Barbara Walters when he talks about how you're supposed to treat women.
Oh, boy. I did not see this.
Oh, my God. My son's watching and goes, is this for real? I go, oh, yeah. They're at his palatial estate somewhere in, like, I think he's in Barbados. And Barbara Walters is going, do you think it's true that you should hit women? He goes, sometimes they just try to get the best of you, and
oh, no.
I think occasionally you've just got to give them a good slap.
Oh, no.
I'm like,
oh, boy.
Sometimes they just go a wee bit too far.
Man,
So
I'm not laughing at that.
I'm just saying, it's just so when you look it up, it's true.
That's brutal.
Yeah, try that at home now. Like this weekend when my wife was being mean to me and making me do all the cleaning up of stuff.
Yeah.
I could have said to her, you know what your problem is. I mean, it's not going to happen.
By the way, Roger Moore, older than Sean Connery. I did not know that.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Roger Moore is 89 years old. Connery's 86. And neither of them could do their scenes right now.
He was a shitty Bond. He was too old and a bit of a flake. Connery's good. But I think Daniel Craig. So there's going to be a new one then, right?
Apparently, yes.
Oh,
Well, I don't think it's ever going to go away.
I hope they don't. I mean, what are they going to put in? fucking suds. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden
that would be pretty bad.
That would be
really bad.
If Scott Sutherland were our good friend became James Bond, he would be no question the laziest of the James Bonds.
Would he ever?
You know, it'd be like,
no, you do it.
Yeah, Mr. Bond, I'm going to blow up the world. Oh, today? Yeah, suds. Yeah, stop pretending you're in the NHL. There's someone else playing hockey in his basement, thinking of things. Coming up in a very short period of time, the legendary Leo Routen's going to join us. Before we get to that, I'm just getting the finger from Scott Sutherland, who apparently not pleased with the treatment he's getting here in the show today. What am I going to go to next? I'm going to go to to Conor McGregor, I guess. So they're betting on this thing.
Yeah.
So they are ready to roll on what is going to be one of the most lucrative, one of the most heavily moneyed fighting events in the history of all fighting? Is this really what I'm talking about? Like $1 billion?
There's going to be some money made. I don't know what the number is, but and the splits are outrageous because it's probably going 80-20. And I'm not joking about that. I think you know who the 80 is. There's a guy that calls him the money team. And,
yes.
Well, he's appropriately named.
No, I'm just so some people are saying, like, for instance, if I throw the question out again, would you pay for this fight? Are you going to go pay-per-view when this fight is on? I know, Dave and myself, it's absolutely yes. I'm not going to miss this one way or the other. I still think that it is just so dangerous for a guy who's not a boxer, where striking is a part of what you do and excellent in his particular discipline, to go up against what I think is probably going to be one of the highest-rated boxers of not only his own era, but maybe of all time. I mean, you talk to those in the fight game. To try to land a punch on Mayweather, that's going to be the thing. Mm-hmm. And look, am I intrigued by it? Yeah, that's why I'm going to spend, what is it going to be, $100 probably?
Yeah, it's probably going to be about $100.
Yeah,
I bet you $89.99 on pay-per-view or some sort of number close. And well, I'm not going to pay for it, but I am going to watch it.
Well, look at some of the magic of Conor McGregor again as we wait for Leo Routen's to make his way into the studio. Most of the stuff that you're going to talk about is Conor McGregor and how he approaches his opponents. Here are some classic moments.
Real people fight. Real fighters fight, not rich kids.
I'll gut you like a fish, you tick.
You little lamest lineup of training partners I ever even heard of.
I'm just looking at your little frame.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strapped up.
People don't know what that means.
Take your top off. Take your top off.
No one knows what that means. It's in America.
Take your top off. You little fat, skinny
Yeah. What are your financial dreams? What to you means you've made it? A mansion, a Ferrari, what is it?
Here it comes. Connor's laughing.
I don't know.
Say it like it is, Nate. Will you?
Who gives a Is this the Money Channel? Who the is this shit?
That was great.
The reason there's a 4.2 billion price tag on the company is because of me.
Oops.
I believe that's what the Chinese estimate my net worth.
Nate, how much are you going to make?
I make a lot more than everybody else.
Yeah, a lot more than his last one, that is. He can thank me for that one. I've made more millionaires in this game than anybody else.
How much of the purse you're going to take home do you owe to Conor McGregor?
I don't know him.
Anything over 40 grand he owes me, because that was his last paycheck. I wiped my for that money. He's like a little...
All right, that is fantastic. I mean, that's what the fight game was always about. I mean, people say, well, is it a little WWF/WWE?
The good ones, yes.
Yeah, I said, well, that's kind of how this whole thing works.
That's kind of why I want to see the press conference between him and Floyd. Conor and Floyd, because Conor will make fun of Floyd, and Floyd won't back down. He won't be as witty as Conor or as fast, but Conor will keep on egging him on. I think if they're smart, when they announce the actual date, the lead into it should have at least 5 press conferences, which is unheard of. Yeah. But it's well worth it if you're going to attract some. You can almost put some of these press conferences, Mike, on pay-per-view themselves. It's charge something easy like $4.99.
I'd
watch how much money you're going to get.
I'd pay
out
for
of
it.
I'm just saying it's a good idea.
You have 2 of the biggest egos ever, which is good. It's kind of what you want. You want in a fight. I mean, what is really lacked in the fight game? Just period. is that we, number one, don't know who they are.
Right.
And when they get up there, they're like, well, good luck to that guy and blah, blah, blah. It's like, what? Excuse me? No, it goes back to Muhammad Ali and how much better he said he was going to be than his fighter, and how much faster he was going to be, and how much better looking he was. And I miss that part, Dave. And so I think, in terms of the monies and attention on this, I hear a lot of people saying this is a joke, this is a farce. It's a fraudulent way of going about the fight game. But I'll tell you this: I bet you somewhat you're not going to watch it. I know you are. Don't lie. Don't lie. You're gonna, even if you're not the one who pays for it, and you get a buddy who's having a bunch of guys over there. You're telling me even if you did, you wouldn't go and watch? Bullshit. No, you're gonna watch this fight because it's gonna be crazy. And as you said, if they have 4 or 5 of these press conferences, how many of them go completely offside?
Hopefully all of them. All of them.
The answer is all the above.
You want to watch this fight, too, because if you're a McGregor fan, you want to see it. If you hate McGregor, you want to see it because you want to see him lose as well. And almost the same side as with Floyd. Like a lot of people hate Floyd Mayweather. And for pretty good reason, for how the guys acted and how the guys treated other people and so forth. So it's almost like, I don't think you can miss this. I'm not saying it's going to be an awesome fight where this lasts, 12 rounds and it goes back and forth and they need a judge's scorecard or anything like that. But it's must-watch fight considering we live in a day of age where boxing is no longer must-watch anymore.
No. So we're going to take a look at it's the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame that Leo Rautins was inducted to. So we're going to bring them in here. He is easily now the tallest man in the room. Suds has now lost that battle as well. Things are not good for Scott Sutherland. But when we come back on the other side, here's some great moments with the legendary Leo Rautins.
Our next inductee rose to prominence as a teenager. A star basketball player for St. Michael's College School in Toronto, at 16, Leo Rautins became the youngest player ever to earn a spot with the Canadian national team. He then honed his skills in the NCAA at Minnesota and Syracuse before becoming the highest drafted Canadian to that point in NBA history. Chosen 17th overall by the Philadelphia 76ers in 1983, injuries hampered Leo's time in the NBA, but he went on to a decade-long professional career in the U.S. and Europe. In 2005, Leo was named the head coach of Canada's men's national team, a post he held until 2011. Today, he is living out another of his dreams, working in television as a lead analyst for Toronto Raptors broadcasts, a position he has held since the team's inception in 1995. Leo Rautins is truly one of the faces of Canadian basketball and one of the great ambassadors for the sport in this country.
That, of course, Leo Rautins and his induction into the Ontario Sports Hall of Fame. And he joins us now and officially has become the tallest person to ever be on rawmike.richards.com. So congratulations. We also have a special gift for you, too, Leo, before you leave.
All right. Hey, any free gifts, I'm in. It's good.
So great to see you. In the basketball world right now, and of course, we just saw what appears to be at times like the Harlem Globetrotters watching Golden State. Like it is a marvelous display of, and I guess people probably don't use the word discipline a whole bunch with them, but you can't play that kind of basketball both on the offensive and defensive side if you don't have discipline. And considering what Steve Kerr's been through and the changes in coaching, I'm just astonished by how they get this done, Leo.
Well, you got players that have bought in. And when your best player, and now you got a question there, I mean, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, whoever you want to call the best player, Klay Thompson, I mean, you got great players that have all bought in. And the unselfishness of this team. As a basketball guy, man, do I love watching them play. That ball just pops. They're anticipating everything you're going to do defensively, and that ball is just a step ahead of you. It actually reminds me a lot of like great international teams used to move that ball that way, right? And you didn't see a lot of it in the NBA other than like Showtime Lakers, some of the old Celtics. Now, I mean, the way they play, to me, it's just a joy to watch. But here's the catch. They do it at the defensive end. I mean, these guys get after you. They play hard. And I think that's the thing that I think even during a regular season, and there's such a difference between regular season and playoffs. It's almost, to me, everybody's saying now, oh, look, it's playoffs, it's only the finals that matter. This has been embarrassing for the NBA. I think you got to look at the regular season, because I think a lot of the regular season's embarrassing to the NBA that creates what we're having here. But when you look at them, I remember when Raptors step into Golden State, they hit you. They walk on the floor, bang! It's like, whoa, what just happened? I love that. And when you got guys that buy in, play hard, get after you that way, it's just great basketball.
Sometimes Dave and I, we talk about the culture of winning and just sort of what it takes. And it's interesting that the team that they knocked out in grand style, San Antonio was that model. I mean, from ownership on down to their coaching staff, the way they drafted, how they drafted the veterans and some of those players they got via free agency. I mean, they have been the model of what you want to do. And so I think, and you saw Pop last night saying, look, this team is unbelievable. I mean, there was no, well, we didn't do this, that's why we didn't win. You're just looking at literally one of the great teams assembled by an organization that, I mean, if we're looking at where they borrowed pages from, can we say some of it came from San Antonio? What does that influence for you?
I think anybody that's got half a brain in the NBA will look at San Antonio. I used to say it 100 years ago, saying, if I'm a GM, I'm going to sit by their doorstep in training camp and grab the guys they cut, because they put so much time and effort into scouting. And, look at a Ginobili, where he come from, a second-round pick. I mean, but now you compare to Golden State, what was Draymond Green, a second-round pick. So that's how you do it. That's how you build a great organization. And absolutely, you look at a team like San Antonio, and they still are a model organization. I think what's happened now, obviously Kawhi Leonard, that was a huge hit. And
that's massive.
That series, I'm not saying they would have won, but they would have pushed Golden State if he was healthy. But they still are the model in terms of how you want to run things, how you want to do things. The problem is they're aging out, and they just have to. The replenishment's gotta start, and they'll do that. That's what they've been doing. They'll do it again.
So we've talked about the Warriors a lot. Vegas calls them the best team right now. Cleveland Cavaliers might have something to say about that. If we're looking heads-up game or heads-up series, which we're all anticipating, who wins this game? Who wins this series, Leo?
Well, I mean, if you're just going to bet, you'd have to go with Golden State, just based on.
And we bet a lot here, just so you know. That's the language that we do talk. We understand what you just said.
I kind of took it the back road.
Yeah. But I mean, can Cleveland win? Yeah. I mean, they can beat them. I don't. This is when everybody says, "Oh, these teams, you build these teams and they're unbeatable. It's not good." They're beatable. Like I said, San Antonio, if all the cards were right and Kawhi was there, I'm not saying Golden State would not be beatable. I'm saying I still think they'd win, but they're beatable. And can Cleveland beat them? They've proven that. Yes, you have a different piece in Kevin Durant, but remember what happens with that piece. They gave up 6 quality role guys to have Kevin Durant. And I'm kind of jumping subjects here, but this whole MVP thing drives me nuts, because everybody's, Curry was an MVP, and this year doesn't even get a sniff. They won 65 games. Durant missed significant number of games, and they gave away 6 key guys to get him. And you still win 65 games. So there's some kind of a constant in there, and I might call that guy Steph Curry. But when you look at this team and Cleveland, I think LeBron is that good that he's gonna balance out the differences between the two teams. If guys, the role players, do what they're supposed to do, Kyrie and Love don't disappear, they could win this thing.
You talk about Kevin Love, and there was, I guess, a couple of years ago where I was unsure. It almost seemed like it was oil on water. It felt to a degree like it wasn't a fit, but that's from the outside looking in, and that's more of a fan perspective, I think, than the actual workings of a basketball team,
and the noise that goes with it.
Yeah, and because Kevin Love has been worth everything, I think, to that team, and when he performs, the other night when he had he was 32-12 or something like that, I'm like, That's when I take a look at that team and go, I just wonder how far they can push that Golden State team, because you also are looking at the quality of the team itself. I guess my question is, when I look at Ty Lue, is he someone that can outcoach you?
He doesn't have to outcoach you. He just has to. What he's done is a great job of putting the right pieces on the floor at the right time. And LeBron's as much of a coach as Ty Lue on that team. And a lot of the great, when Magic was playing for the Lakers, you think Pat Riley was the only guy calling the shots? I mean, I had guys that played there. friends of mine that played on that team said Magic ran practice. He'd say, no, let's do this again. Let's do this again. Guys stayed on the floor an extra 45 minutes because Magic wasn't happy with the way they were running the offense. So when you have great players, that's what happens. And even with that love relationship you were talking about with LeBron, I mean, again, using some of his old references, I remember Larry Bird didn't think Kevin McHale was worth squat until he sat out and was injured and watched him play every day, and then he had a whole newfound appreciation for him. And I think LeBron has an appreciation for Kevin Love and what he brings to the table. Kevin Love also realizes this guy is putting me on the map. I might have been an all-star, but now I'm a winner. But here's what he's demanding from me. Kevin Love is day and night defensively now what he was 2 years ago. Because if you don't play defense, LeBron's going to rip you apart. Mm-hmm. And if you want to stay here, you better buy in. And so like the impact he has with guys like that is amazing. So I think it's going to be fun. And
there's also, by the way, there's also a guy when you start talking about Kevin Love, physically. The transformation from, let's say, even going back to UCLA.
He was like the Pillsbury Doughboy. Yeah, and all of a sudden, he's a lean, mean. Yeah. I couldn't even recognize him.
Found a diet, eh?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk, Leo, after that Celtics winning Game 3, that this may have been the best thing to happen to the Cavaliers in the playoffs, losing this game. True or false?
You know what? There was so much made out of that loss, right? And listen to all the people jumping on LeBron. It's to me it's laughable. It's the same people that said, "Hey, the Raptors have this window. Hey, the Cleveland Cavaliers are vulnerable." I'm going, seriously? Come on. If you know the game, come on, calm down. But you're going to think this is crazy. LeBron has an appreciation for this league. He understands what he means to this league. He understands the criticisms the league hears. He understands optics. You know what? If you watch that last game, did it appear to you that LeBron checked out?
No.
I thought he did. Like
like
late game stage. Okay, he just kind of like he didn't say, oh hey.
No, but 11 points, you'll sit there and say, okay, that's not LeBron James, is it?
But it's not LeBron James the way he finished the game. And I've seen this before with this guy. I mean, a couple years ago, the Raptors beat them twice.
It's hard for me to say he checks out of anything, though, Leo.
Yeah, but this is how it's that switch. People talk about the switch. Very few players can control this switch. This guy can. 2 seasons ago, in a regular season, the Raptors beat Cleveland twice.
Yeah.
Cleveland, both of those games got off to a really good start. The Raptors were down. LeBron was locked in. All of a sudden, I'm looking, and this guy. If you remember watching Wayne Gretzky, his eyes like a machine. He's seeing everything ahead of it. Well, I'm watching LeBron. I'm going, after the first quarter, he's gone. He's just like nothing there. And I'm going, is this me? Like, am I reading? So I'm talking to coaches around the league and going, do you see the same thing? Oh, yeah. The only reason you won is because he checked out. And it's almost like, okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm LeBron. Again, this is Leo talking. This has nothing to do with LeBron, so don't. But, okay, guys, I'm going to have maybe 9 days between games if we win tonight. Or we close this series out, and we just had another long 9-day layoff before that. If we go an extra game here, it's not going to be bad for us. It's actually maybe pretty good for us. You know, this league has taken a lot of heat, how these playoffs are nothing, and it's all about the finals. An extra game wouldn't hurt this league right now. I honestly believe deep down somewhere in my heart that LeBron is that good and that conscientious of the league and his own team that he could actually do that.
Like I don't disagree,
and that's crazy.
You know, and I know people think, well, what the hell are you guys talking about? Well, the reality is, in almost any other sport I can think of, as good as you can be, like a Wayne Gretzky or a Sidney Crosby, or I mean, put player X in there, or eventually probably a Connor McDavid. But see, in hockey, you have shifts.
Yeah.
And so even though you can be dominant for that period of time, nothing like basketball. Football doesn't really have it. You got offense and defense. In basketball, if you have that dominant player, it changes the entire outlook. I mean, that's why LeBron, the first time around with Cleveland, it was LeBron and 4 friends.
Yeah.
And he still took them to a final.
You could put LeBron with 4 other friends, and he'll take them to the finals, too. That's the crazy thing about it.
Is he going to be considered, and I know people want to get into the, MJ, conversation, but the fact is, I don't think I've ever seen a physical specimen Like even just the physical nature of who he is walking into a room. I don't know if we've ever seen that. And again, there's been impressive physical statures in other sports, but I don't know. For me personally, the moment he comes in the league, coming out of high school in Akron, and I'm looking at the maturity. I mean, I don't see him making it rain in strip clubs. I don't hear him. There's no being pulled over in DUIs.
Hey, if the worst thing you've done was the decision, I'll tip my hat to you. You know.
I agree. I think he's got to be considered to be the best who've ever played that game.
Well, you know what? I can't get away from Jordan. I can't. I just can't. I think LeBron is a special player. He certainly is going to go down as one of the great players in the history of this game. But the league, to me, has changed so much. And the way people look at the league, the way people look at players has changed so much. I mean, look at this year. Look at the crazy numbers we saw this year. I mean, Russell Westbrook averaging a triple-double. The numbers Harden's putting up. Everybody scoring 100-something points a game. It's changed. LeBron, that's why this whole MVP talk is silly. If LeBron wanted to average a triple-double, do you think he could have?
No.
And if he became the first guy to average a triple-double, would he be MVP? It's not about that. Yeah. It's not about. He doesn't play for stats. But Jordan still, to me, was just a more dominant player in every respect. And he didn't have that on-off switch. He just had the on switch. and honestly, if I could sit there and I don't even want to pick LeBron apart because he's that good. But if I could say there's one thing that does bother me is that on-off switch. Because, like I said, with a Magic, it was on. With a Bird, it was on. With a Jordan, it was on. And I'm old school. I love the switch. You put it on, you go. And if that's the worst thing I can say about you, but here's the catch: you're good enough to do that.
Yeah, that's
you're playing with the best in the world. You can turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's incredible. We're in conversation with Leo Rautins here on rawmike.richards.com, brought to you by Henry's Cameras. Dave continues to pull pranks on me by unplugging my computer. It's
swear to God,
all of a sudden, RedTube and Brazzers has shown up on. I don't know.
What's that?
That's right. What's going on here? Speaking of old school, Dave and I talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we saw it, but watching the Bobby Knight, was it Perfect in
76?
Perfect in 76, and of course, and I hadn't seen it in a long time, and I've had a chance to talk to Coach Knight too, which I thought was
he
awesome.
Recruited me.
Yeah, so let's go back and talk about that era because who I mean, look, comes out of Army, and. But what he wanted to achieve, literally, when you look back and see it now, when he talks about perfection, in this day and age, it looks crazy.
Yeah,
it looks crazy.
Well, and it was. I'll be honest with you. Like he recruited me, and I'm going to go with the second recruitment because he was good friends with Jack Donahue. He was the coach of the national team. Jack was like a mentor for Bobby Knight, and so he had that in. And I was playing for Canada, so I had left Minnesota. And I played very well against Indiana my freshman year, and I really wasn't interested in the first recruiting pitch from Indiana because I thought Bobby Knight was crazy. And then so the second time around, he's coaching the USA team. Remember, he slapped a cop in Puerto Rico. We were there. I mean, we were practicing right before them. So that whole thing, and I saw firsthand a lot of stuff that I'm going. I told Coach D, I said, Coach, please tell him. I said, I respect him. I cannot play for this man. I don't need you to grab me by the hair and slack me in the side of the head to tell me what you want me to do. Just tell me what you want me to do. Crack a joke with me that. I respond better to that. So that's me personally. But hey, he's old school. I mean, there's a lot of coaches that were on that side versus what we see.
Absolutely.
I tell you, I mean, yeah. Jack Donahue. I mean, Jack Donahue was a tough Army kind of guy when he started out with Canada basketball, and he softened over the years. Jim Boeheim at Syracuse. I mean, when I made a mistake, I ran down the opposite side of the floor. I didn't want to be anywhere near him when I made a mistake. That's how crazy he was. As a matter of fact, when Andy signed to go to Syracuse, before he signed to go to Syracuse, I used to, I'd be watching a game, say I'm with the Raptors in Detroit or something, Syracuse on TV, and Jimmy's in somebody's face. I call Andy up right there. I go, that's you right now. He's telling you can't play. You can't. You still want to go there? He goes, yeah. I said, okay, all right. But but you just can't coach that way today. It's a different world.
Well, the delivery of message has to change with the way even the way our kids have grown up. I think if you go in there with the fire and the brimstone,
look what happens at school. I mean, if a teacher disciplines you, What happened? I went to schools where you got the crap beat out of you, and then you prayed to God they didn't call home because you got it again.
Well,
now these kids, if you say anything to these kids, the parents are saying, "What are you doing talking to my kid?"
Well,
you got a whole different world right now.
Back in the day, if you're taught by, it could be the brothers.
Yeah.
You know, or
the bazillion fathers at St. Mike's.
Yeah, the nuns who come by with that stick. There's something to be said for that. But discipline, I think in all sport, to me, is not only needed, but I think the good athletes crave it.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. They want to be taught. They want to be coached. I've never been around a great player that doesn't want to be coached. Now you gotta earn their respect. I mean, they got to know that you know what you're talking about. You got to know that you're sincere. They got to know that you care. And that's you look at Popovich, the way he's coached. They know, they get it. They know he's a smart guy. But then there's different styles. I mean, you look at a Steve Kerr's very, very different from a Popovich and how he coaches, right? But I think that there's a respect, and you can't be afraid. Steve Kerr, in his way, he's called out Steph Curry. He's called out Kevin Durant. He just does it different.
In his way.
In his way.
Yeah.
So the timing of this interview, Leo, is really good considering what has happened with the Raptors over the weekend. They lose a significant front office guy. He heads down to Orlando. The loss from the Raptors' perspective, he wasn't around. Jeff Weltman wasn't here for a long period of time, but what happens in that role of general manager that they are looking at to fill?
Well, they very easily could do it from within. I think there's a lot of quality people in the organization now, and Masai Ujiri. Let's not underestimate
exactly.
his impact and his role with all the decisions that are made. The one thing I do take about Jeff Weltman, very much like Masai, tremendous patience. I think everybody is that knee-jerk reaction. I don't think you could be a GM and have a knee-jerk reaction. If you look at the way Masai has handled his business since he's been here, and Jeff Weltman as well, they don't panic. When all of a sudden you're losing games you shouldn't be losing, and this guy is not playing well, there's no panic. They're calm. Hey, we'll figure this out. We'll see. Hey, we need to know who can play in these situations, who can't play in these, who can play when your best guy is down, who can respond. It's look at some guys that people have written off. On Nogueira, all of a sudden Nogueira, he's got a role. Like you find and you do your scouting like a Norm Powell, like we talk about San Antonio. You get that second rounder that can be a contributor. So I think as an organization, they're very locked in and they're very good at that. Jeff Weltman was very good at that, and so I don't think as much as obviously he'll be missed, but I don't think they'll skip a beat because, like I said, whether it's from within or Masai pulling in somebody he knows from the outside, I think they'll be fine.
Conversation with Leo Rautins here on rawmikerichards.com. Those watching live on the YouTube stream, on the dedicated channel. Also, download the podcast on iTunes. So this offseason for the Raptors, and I'd said, a couple of weeks ago, I guess that when I take a look at the sort of the cycle that teams go through, and you just mentioned San Antonio, where you're at, it starts to now ebb towards the replenishing. If you've got that skill within the organization to be able to do that, this is a tough place for the Raptors because I take a look at probably how good Cleveland's still going to continue to be. Boston's probably only going to get better. I mean, you look at what they have done and what Danny Ainge has done. I think he's done a pretty good job. Is Milwaukee improving? You see what Washington's doing. You just see Weltman goes down to an Orlando team that's a pretty good opportunity for him with what they've got coming up. So now you find the Raptors in a situation where, Kyle Lowry on the other side of 30, he's looking to be rewarded with, with that big contract, but you're not in the business necessarily of making people feel good about themselves or giving them a gold watch. You got to make sure that your team keeps at least pace where you are right now. That's a tough place to be. Do you not think right now?
No, this is
Raptors?
A critical summer. Yeah. It absolutely is. But there's a lot of positives going into it. And, going into this season, for example, San Antonio and Cleveland were among the oldest teams in the NBA. The Raptors were one of the youngest teams in the NBA. And yet you were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. And, again, if not for seeding, you probably would have been in the Eastern Conference Finals this year. So you're in a good place overall. That even the very few teams are in development and in winning at the same time. And the Raptors have kind of done that. That D-League team they got in place. All these things have been really positive factors that, Masai has kind of put in place. But now you got a critical summer. And they do understand loyalty, and I think that there is a loyalty to a Kyle Lowry. There's no question, but it's not a gold watch. because you want to be loyal and you want to reward somebody for what they've done, but as long as it's not going to break your franchise.
Well, what numbers would we be talking about?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Those are numbers that they know that what they can play with, but you're looking at Kyle's age and health and everything else, and you have to say, hey, if I go beyond 2-3 years at those kind of dollars, that might be too risky. If someone wants to go 4 or 5 years, then you may not have a choice, because Kyle might say, that's what I'm taking that. So that might not be in your hands anymore if Kyle says, I'm taking the money, if somebody gives it to him. You have to see what the market's going to bear.
Is there somebody out there that's willing to do that?
Well, there's rumors. I mean, there's rumors that
Lakers rumors.
The Lakers, there's maybe even the Clippers, maybe the Sixers, Colangelo. Yep. There's all kinds of rumors out there. But when it comes to putting that dollar figure on the table, is somebody going to do it? So that may weigh into Kyle's decision now. Say, hey, if it's only this many years, would I rather stay here where I'm comfortable? And so we don't know that. That's going to be a big domino, though. Without a doubt, Kyle's going to be a huge domino into what happens.
Is there a scenario where the Raptors have to make a decision between keeping a Serge Ibaka or a Kyle Lowry, considering the dollar figures are going to be very high? I know the positions are different, but if they go one way or the other, and where would they lean right now?
Well, there's rumors that Ibaka, and I really feel that Masai wouldn't have made the deal to bring Ibaka here if he wasn't 100% sure that he was going to be able to re-sign Ibaka. Now, again, without having talked to Masai in detail about this now, does he still feel this way after the way the season ended? I don't know that answer, but again, I think Ibaka came here with the idea he'd re-sign here, and so all that's already kind of been factored in if that's the case. So could you do them both? Yes. And kind of what you touched on earlier, when you talk about a window or like a LeBron situation, I'm not worried about anybody else in the East. I'm not worried about Boston. I'm not worried about Milwaukee. Are they going to be good? Yes. Is Milwaukee going to get better because of Antetokounmpo? Yes. But I'm not. That doesn't concern me. I mean, you want good competition. If you were in the West, you wouldn't be. It's the way it is. I mean, it's good. But as long as LeBron is healthy and playing the way he is, there is no window.
Right.
But what happens if a LeBron gets hurt? Or what happens if, like 2 years ago, Kyrie and Love both go down in a series that you're playing against and something cracks a little bit? Because even going into this year, I said, hey, the Raptors, if healthy, if 100%, could push Cleveland a little bit. But you also need – so you have to play perfect, and you got to be 100%. You need adversity on their side.
You need
something bad has to happen.
A little lightning on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's not no disrespect to the Raptors or anybody else in the East, but that's how good LeBron is on the other side. So you have to weigh your money. Is this the time where you pay heavy-duty luxury tax if you know that's a situation? Or do you try to moderately put yourself in that situation knowing that, hey, if lightning does strike, we'll be poised to hit? So those are all kind of factors. That's why I said this is going to be a huge summer. There's a lot of big decisions that have to be made, but I have no reason not to be confident based on everything I've seen with Masai as far as decisions that he will make.
Now, in terms of the style that they play, now on the resume for Coach Casey, who I'm a huge fan of, I make no bones about that. I think he's a tremendous man. It's defense. I mean, that's sort of the calling card. I look at some of the players, especially at DeMarre Carroll, when he came in and thought this is sort of a Coach Casey guy. But I think, Father Time hasn't been exactly kind to DeMarre Carroll, and I think they got him on the other side of where they really wanted him. Right. And I look at some of the players that, do they fit into more or less, and I'm not going to say lockdown because people get too obsessed with one thing or the other. Well, defensive accountability gives you the chance to get the ball more often. So it's not like I'm choosing one over the other. So I look at the style of play right now we're seeing in the NBA where there's a lot of small ball. I mean, geez, the bigs are just running up and down the court. So the guys that they have, this roster that exists on this Raptor team and a Jonas Valanciunas, is it progressing the way, including Jonas Valanciunas, that it still fits the mindset of what that coach wants to see?
Well, I think Masai made that point. They got to have a kind of a cultural reset with what they're doing. And it's very important that everybody buys in. And Masai said, hey, I got to look at myself, my management staff. I got to look at my players. I got to look at Dwayne Casey and communicate. And everybody's got to buy into what you need to do. Because I think, frankly, hey, defense is critical. I mean, you got to be able to play good defense. We see that with Golden State. I mean, they play great defense. But it's about being able to make critical stops. It's about being able to put the clamps down when you need to put the clamps down, because, quite frankly, you can't play the game the way you used to be able to play the game. It's changed. And if you can't score, you could be the best defensive team in the world. If you can't score, you got a real problem. So the game has evolved differently. I think the Raptors do have to adjust, and I think part of that is how you play offensively. I think they need more shooters. You're still looking for that small forward that can knock jumpers down, defend, get you on the glass, get out and run. I think they do have to find a way to run more. Get up. You need to loosen the game up where you don't get bogged down. And Masai said it himself that they've had a very good amount of success. I mean, the bar is pretty high. I mean, you're a 50+ win team, but you haven't gotten to where you want to now. So you're at a good place, but what do you have to do to make that next step? And that's where I think they said you got to have shooters. You got to loosen up your offense a little bit. You got to have more flow. They've been very good at that. Pick and roll. Two guys dominating the ball, but that's gotten you to this point and hasn't gotten you further. So now whether that's it's going to be a part of some different things. It's going to be adding some pieces. It's going to be players buying in or moving out. It's going to be Casey buying in or maybe not being here. Mm-hmm. I think that's what it comes down to. And Masai kind of made that. It's very his conference after the last game. He said, "This is all BS. Like, you really can't say anything." But I thought he said an awful lot. That you didn't even have to read between the lines. There's going to be a lot of heartfelt conversations with breaking everything down, and there's going to be some changes, but that's a good thing, not a bad thing.
Yeah. Now this might be tough to answer, but when you talk about getting that shooter that can play defense, if you had a wish list out there of yourself looking for that shooter to bring in, what sort of names would we be looking at for the Raptors?
It depends. I'll be honest with you. I got to look at the free agents and everybody out there. I have to take a good look at that, but you just need guys that can space the floor. Right. I mean, you look at and take a look at a guy like Korver, okay? He's not a small forward, but take a look at a guy like Korver at Cleveland. That here's a guy that is he a great defender? No, but what he does is when that ball gets there, he's going to make that shot. Mm-hmm. You have a run going. You need this one to cap it. He'll make it.
He's done that with a lot of teams.
Yeah,
he really has.
But see, we got scorers in Toronto. We don't have shooters. Kyle Korver's a shooter. You need shooters. You need guys that ball's going in. Terrence Ross, when he was here, he wasn't a shooter. Everybody talked about he was a scorer. Mm-hmm. And there's a big difference between the two. And and Korver in that environment at Cleveland, he works at the defensive end. He gives it. Understand how to play within the team structure. J.J. Redick at the Clippers, a shooter, but buys into the team defense. He's not a great defender, but he's a scouting report on the floor. He knows where he's supposed to be, does all those things. You need shooters. So whether it's a small forward, shooting guard, now up front, you're a 4 guy coming in that can space the floor and consistently knock down, even a 5. You got to find those guys now. You have to.
You know what I think is interesting is now I look at J.J. Redick with the sleeves. And I think going back to Duke, there was not a lot of guys who on the team look like that. He's changed quite a bit since that time. I don't know if Coach K likes to look or not.
Yeah, it's but he's he's a great story. I tell a lot of young players if you look at a J.J. Redick, he was almost out of the league. He was a lottery pick, was almost out of the league. Stan Van Gundy taught him how to play in the NBA, but he really is a scouting report. He knows, like I said, he's not a great defender. He's a great shooter, and he's a smart player. But what he does is he understands where he's supposed to be, where you're supposed to be, what you guys are trying to run, what he's trying to do, and he understands all that. And that's what he brings to the table every single game. And there's a lot of players in this league that if they could, like, I've already had some conversations with some players that if I was you, I said, I'd call J.J. Redick up. I said, I'll give you $10,000, spend a week with me, whatever. How do you do what you do?
Can you teach basketball IQ?
Yeah. Because you know what? It's a question of what you're willing to put in to work at it. And, like I've said the same thing years ago to players that were similar to a Steve Nash. I said, what's stopping you from picking up the phone, calling them, and said, what's it going to cost? You make a lot of money. What's it going to cost? Teach me. Show me. Help me out. you need to, that's what great players do. They pick brains of other. Kobe Bryant picks brains of different people. Like, that's what great players do. Yeah.
Before we let you go, a couple things. I think might be talking to Dylan Brooks next week, and I look at the draft that's coming up, and it's funny as we came on to the program today, as you saw Leo in those clips back in the day, and we talk about where you actually event up with Syracuse and so on. When that, to me, I remember being in high school thinking, really, Leo's going to that was a big deal. Like, they're a singular person getting a scholarship at a legendary institution like Syracuse, and you talked about the schools and the level of ball that you played at. There are hundreds of kids playing at a level
fantastic.
that they're not just making the team anymore.
Yeah.
They are the stars of the team. And I look at the sort of the draft projections, but Boucher unfortunately got hurt.
Yeah.
Otherwise, maybe your wife might have been sad because maybe the Ducks actually do beat the Tar Heels.
No, my life would be miserable.
Yeah, I was going to say not good in your household, but we got some guys who can play. And Dylan, I'm glad he went back for another year. I thought it was the right decision. And so we look at these Canadian athletes, and therefore, we start talking about national team stuff. Never have I seen a level, and it's only getting better, Leo.
Yeah.
It really, truly is.
No, it is. It's years ago, when I started with the national team, that was right when Steve kind of retired and Rowan Barrett retired. A lot of these guys have been around for a long time. And, you open up the cupboards, they were bare at the top. You look down, man, it was crazy. And, as an organization, there was a decision made that those are the guys that we got to focus in on. We're not winning anything up here. That's not happening. We got to take all these kids and give them everything we got to develop them and bring them up, start making all the national teams younger, do whatever we have to get these guys experience. And I think, and you know what the biggest impact has been is the NBA. I mean, think about it. 1995, the NBA comes to Canada, comes to Toronto, Vancouver at the same time. And, Andrew Wiggins, when was he born? 1995. These kids grew up watching NBA. Hey, I said I wanted to be an NBA player. How realistic was that? You rarely saw it on TV. You almost never saw it in person. Bob McAdoo at Buffalo Braves a few times.
You know where I saw it? So if it wasn't for them coming to Maple Leaf Gardens and so on, because my dad's a basketball coach, grew up with, legitimately, it was UHF, and you could get Channel 29.
Yeah.
And they started showing
fuzzy and
they started showing Notre Dame games. It was Digger Phelps, and on that team was Flowers, and I think Ernie DiGregorio was on that team, and all these guys, and people didn't even know. Show and tell. I talk about a 2-3 zone or something. They're like, that's a great story. Did anyone catch a frog or something? Like, it didn't make any sense to the other kids. But that's how small it was in terms of basketball.
Yeah. So think about it. I'm telling everybody I play in the NBA. People look at, what are you nuts, dude? Seriously? Like you? And how? What's my basis for that? Now kids can watch 300 games a year on TV. You go to clinics, you go to games, you meet players. You do, and I've always been a big proponent of saying, if you can see it, feel it, taste it, touch it, you can be it. And these kids all believe it now. And there's so many programs. I mean, AAU ball, these kids have opportunities. I mean, my kid's playing on the team here with the Bounce program in Toronto. And let's see, they've been to Atlanta. They're going to LA this weekend. They were in Indianapolis before that. I mean, you're bouncing all over the place. You're playing against the best kids in the country. He's got 2 or 3 kids on his team that are going to be NBA players. It's crazy. The talent level. There was just a great article about a week or two. I think Bleacher Report had it. Just how the level is gone up to where all the U.S. schools are coming up here because you got as much talent to pick from, and that's something I always said that we're a melting pot. Think about Canada, where everybody's from somewhere, right?
Yeah.
So we got great athletes. We got kids from all over the place, right? Their backgrounds so we should have great athletes if we teach them how to play. It's going to be amazing, and that's what's happening. It's fun.
On that note, just received a tweet about this while you were talking about kids and influences and stuff like that. A lot of it, and I don't need to tell you this, but Vince Carter, when he was a Toronto Raptor, a lot of young kids grew up watching Vince Carter and wanted to be like Vince kind of thing. Now that being said, Vince Carter's a free agent. He's entering his 20th NBA season. There's a pretty good debate going on in this community whether or not the Raptors should pursue Vince in his final NBA career, or NBA season. Would you like to see Vince Carter back with the Toronto Raptors, and does it make sense for the team to bring back Vince Carter?
Well, it really just depends on, remember, the Raptors are a team that, as we talked about earlier, development and winning. If you put him on a team, is that going to hinder development Is it going to make that much difference in winning?
Right.
And that's that decision you got to make, because if you're a Memphis and you're kind of in this place, and Vince can be a nice factor for you coming in, but it's not costing the development of somebody at the other end, and he's really not necessarily winning you that many games on top. So you got to kind of weigh all that, and there is a big argument. There's a lot of people that kind of resent the way things ended with Vince, and I think that was a two-way street. It really was. It wasn't all Vince, and it wasn't all the Raptors. It was a two-way street. So you kind of at some point, and I think a lot of people have let it go, and that's where they're saying bring him back. But
I agree. I think it's almost to a degree, strangely enough, I never thought I would say it at the time, but it's almost flip-flopped the other way. I mean, you talk to younger guys in their development, even a Jamal McGlure and some of these guys. A lot of the reasons that they play basketball was because of Vince Carter.
Yeah, no, hey, you know what? And you know what? It's funny because there's been a lot of guys that have come through this organization. I thought Damon Stoudemire, as a first-year guy, think about it. You're whole new thing, NBA. If you had some 7-footer swinging off the rim, how many average guys could relate to that? You got a guy that you wouldn't even notice on the street. He's 5'10", right? I thought that was a great thing for Canada, for Toronto, to have a Damon Stoudemire, that's somebody you can relate to size-wise and being on the floor and getting Rookie of the Year and the whole bit. But Vince had a monster impact. So I put it this way, would I be opposed to it? No. But I think you got to look at all those other factors that I was saying. And talking to Vince, this is a much more comfortable role for him that he's in now than being a star.
Right.
Definitely.
He never wanted to be that franchise guy. He never wanted that. It just wasn't his makeup. Even though he to me, he had the talent to have been a multiple-time MVP. But that wasn't his makeup. To be able to be just a guy that can help out, nurture young guys and do some of this, it's a perfect role for him. And the crazy thing is his body. I mean, at his age now, we would hope to be physically where he's at now when we were 20.
Yeah, tell me about it.
And even when you look at other NBA players, a lot of NBA guys don't have what he's got now at 40, which is crazy. It's just crazy. So it's pretty cool to see.
Okay, before we let you go, Russell, you can also show on camera what exactly Leo is receiving for the first ever, the first of its kind, I would say, that here on rawmikerichards.com.
Oh, nice.
And you're a coffee guy.
You know I'm a coffee guy.
So there it is.
Look at that.
I think you'll enjoy the slogan on the side of it.
I'll have to tweet that out.
There you go.
We the Raw.
We
like
the
that.
Raw. I will tell you, that was designed by a good friend of mine.
First of its kind.
It is the first of its kind.
You're the first one to receive one.
His name is John Dix, who designed this. So I said, what do we call him? So this is Dixware? No, we need you got to come up with a different name. That is yours, my friend.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Thank you so much, and we will.
I'm definitely gonna have my first cup of coffee with it tomorrow morning.
Okay, so we are going to go out here, but I got to tell you, what a pleasure it was today.
Become best friends. Yep. You want to go do karate in the garage? Yep. It's time.
Leo Rautins joining us here in studio. What a pleasure! It's been too long.
It is. It's always great to see you. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
And I know your wife is in good spirits after Coach Roy gets them to a national championship.
You don't know what I got to hear. Between the Tar Heels and the Cowboys, my life can be hell sometimes.
And the Cowboys too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you poor
my
man.
dog's got Cowboy jerseys on during the game. It's you know what? Hey, remember last year Syracuse and Carolina played in the tournament?
Yes.
And she had these gnomes by the pool in Florida, like a Carolina one and a Syracuse one.
No.
And so, guess what? After the Syracuse loss, was floating upside down for Syracuse. Seriously, like no heart, no, just killing me. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us here today, rawmikerichards.com. We'll see you again tomorrow, and thanks to Leo Rautins.